We had more elections take place tonight across the country. In California, there is a special election going on. There's also some Democratic and Republican primaries in Alaska. But I want to focus on Florida for today's video because we got some interesting results. Now, just to kind of put everything out in the open, my expectations going into tonight was that the left would do very, very poorly because Florida has consistently been a very, very difficult egg to crack. But to my surprise, we got shocking results out of Florida. So we'll talk about that. First, let's focus on the 6th congressional district. This is actually a Republican district, and something very weird was happening. There was a primary taking place between Hitler and Hitler. So Randy Fine, for all intents and purposes, the incumbent, is a neo-Nazi. He is explicitly Islamophobic. He talks about how he hates Muslims, wants to deport citizens, including Zoran Mamdani. And today, there was a lot of attention on this race. You had Mike Johnson as well as Hakeem Jeffries come out and condemn Randy Fine's opponent for anti-Semitic comments that he made about Randy Fine. And it led me to believe that in addition to the endorsement that Donald Trump made recently, Randy Fine, that maybe he was in trouble. Turns out he was not in trouble, but he was running against Dan Bilzerian. Dan Bilzerian is somebody who doesn't necessarily identify as a neo-Nazi, but if you had to put him into a box, he'd fit into that box. He is essentially Nick Fuentes. He denies the Holocaust. He thinks that Jewish people are responsible for the gays and for transing your kids, but he doesn't support genocide. And basically his argument is that, like, if you're offended by what I'm saying, well, Randy Fine says it about Muslims. And he's not wrong, but it's like, well, does that make it right? So the question that voters were tasked with was like, what flavor of Nazi do you want? Do you want the Jew-hating Nazi or the Muslim-hating Nazi? And ultimately, they sided with the latter. They went with Randy Fine. So this was an interesting race to me because in the event Dan Bilzerian would have won, then it would have put Republicans in a really awkward place because they would have somebody in a deep red district who would probably win a seat in Congress, and they would have to denounce him because their AIPAC handlers would not allow them to support this candidate, not offer him any institutional support whatsoever. But if they rejected him, they would essentially hand the seat to a Democrat. And that's if that would even sink his campaign because it's a deep red district. So this could have been a very weird situation for Republicans. But I think that the main takeaway is whenever you see two Nazis fighting, Democrats, let them fight. You don't have to weigh in and side with one Nazi over the other. You can just step back and let them rip each other apart. But moving on to what you're all really here for, the Democratic Party primaries. And there were 3 races in particular that I was watching. So let's get to the results from the first one. Now, this is Elijah Manley's district. He was running in the 20th Congressional District, and he was taking on Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Unfortunately, he did not get it done. He came in 3rd place. And this result is crazy to me because Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a carpetbagger. This is a majority-minority district, and she chose to run in this district, pissed a lot of people off in doing so, but she still won. And I feel like, who's going to be able to beat this individual? She is one of the most corrupt conservative members of the Democratic Party, and nobody can seem to beat her in a primary. So some of these districts are crazy. I don't know. Maybe she's just like going to be there forever. Maybe we're stuck with her. I have no idea. But voters in this particular district went for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which is quite the choice. So, I'm really sad to see that happen. Now, when it comes to the 25th Congressional District of Florida, this is the one a lot of leftists were paying attention to because Oliver Larkin was running a fantastic campaign, and unfortunately, he lost to the DeSantis Democrat Jared Moskowitz. And this district was also really difficult. Austin Hawks shared their experience about phone banking, where they say, had a woman hear me out for a few minutes on Oliver Larkin today, asked his stance on Israel, then said she stood even more with Moskowitz now, and ended the call with a fuck you, an experience I have not had phone banking for Malat Kuros, Chris Rabb, or Adam Hamawi. Now, yes, that's one anecdote, but if you look at the replies to Ostenox, people from the district are like, yeah, that checks out. This is the district. So it's really unfortunate. Listen, this was always going to be a really, really tough fight for Oliver Larkin. I mean, he did a phenomenal job. He got national name recognition. He was appearing on Fox News, Newsmax. He was raising a lot of money. He had a substantial grassroots campaign, but this was a tough district to win in. And, I had a little bit of hope because he had an internal poll come out last week that showed he was just 2 points behind Jared Moskowitz, but unfortunately, he didn't get it done. And it really is just baffling because, again, this is a Democratic primary. It's a largely swing district, so odds are, you had some voters playing pundit and they thought maybe he was just, he's a DSA candidate, so he couldn't win in a general. Maybe that's part of it. But there's a very, very clear difference between Jared Moskowitz and Oliver Larkin. Jared Moskowitz is a genocide denier, and he's voted to send money to Israel, the country doing a genocide. On top of that, he led Ron DeSantis' COVID response in Florida, which was disastrous. He voted to censure Rashida Tlaib, Al Green. He voted for the Laken Riley Act. So for all intents and purposes, this is somebody who is a moderate Republican if we want to be charitable. And I don't know why a Democratic voter would support an individual that's this conservative. But again, Florida's a different beast, man. Florida has some people that are Floridian. I don't know how else to describe them. There's no other adjective that I can use because Florida is its own fucking thing, man. Like, seeing these results, it makes me want to do the Bugs Bunny cartoon that we all see, the GIF that people share where he's sawing off Florida and pushing it into the ocean. Like, it makes me want to do that, but at the same time, Floridians redeem themselves a little bit because even though we did not see an Elijah Manley or Oliver Larkin victory, we got one that is genuinely surprising. So in the U.S. Senate primary, there was a race between Angie Nixon and Alex Vindman. Now, Alex Vindman is the corporate Democrat. Angie Nixon was the progressive Democrat. She supports Medicare for all. She calls it a genocide, opposes sending money and weapons to Israel. And she was getting outspent massively. She spent something like $975,000, whereas Vindman spent more than $16 million. So in a statewide race, you would think this is going to be tough for her. Guess what? Out of nowhere, she pulled out a victory. I don't know how to explain this. She did something that looked very difficult, if not impossible to do, with almost no money. She won a statewide race in Florida when she was massively outspent 16-1, more than 16-1. This is crazy. So Angie Nixon, a phenomenal candidate, would be another Bernie Sanders type of progressive if she were to win. And now when you step back and you look at a lot of these races, we've got Angie Nixon now in Florida, Peggy Flanagan in Minnesota, we've got Abdul El Sayed in Michigan, Charles Booker in Kentucky, we've got Troy Jackson in Maine. If all of them were to win, and I don't expect all of them to win, I'm crossing my fingers, of course, but if all of them were to win, the amount of progressives in the Senate we would have would skyrocket. I mean, still, it's 5. That's a small portion, but the amount of solid progressives that we have who support Medicare for all, who actually are aligned with the DSA and the progressive flank of the party, I mean, that would be phenomenal. So I am really struck by the results tonight. Congratulations to Angie Nixon. Her team is very clearly talented, and they're tapped in a way that nobody else is. And this is a shocking upset that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. Listen, as I stated earlier, my expectations were very low coming into this election. I was really hopeful that we would see an upset. I didn't expect much out of Florida. But for Angie Nixon to straight up win a statewide race, that is crazy. So congratulations to Angie Nixon and to everybody else, Oliver Larkin, Elijah Manley. I mean, you did the best that you could in the political environment that you got. I genuinely don't know what the secret sauce is for Florida. I think we all need to take notes from Angie Nixon, learn from her, and get her advice, because going forward, whatever blueprint she had, we've got to utilize that because it worked. And maybe it's different in these districts because there was gerrymandering recently, and on top of that, these districts are very distinct. So it's gonna be a little bit different depending on where you're running on. But like, Florida is a tough state to run on if you're a progressive. It's a tough state if you're a Democrat in general, but it seems like they seem to prefer corporate Democrats in many instances in Florida. I don't know what the fuck is going on in Florida. Either way, I expect to just feel nothing after the election, but I'm somehow feeling rejuvenated because Angie Nixon pulled off a win. That is insane. So here we are again, shocked by the results of an election in a Democratic Party primary. And, even though we had some really strong, amazing candidates not win, Angie Nixon's win should be celebrated by everybody on the left because she truly is an amazing candidate and she would be a fantastic senator. So, amazing news.